Welcome back to Franco Fridays. Today I'm going to cover 1979's The Sadist of Notre Dame, or Notre Dame. This is an interesting film, one of his best films, I think. It's also one of the most confusing because there's 4 different versions of this film. In a previous Franco Fridays, I covered a 1974 film called Exorcism, and this was released under the Redemption line. This film was a French production with a kind of a green producer, a personal friend of Franco's, but the producer got too involved in the production, and we ended up getting numerous cuts of the film for a variety of reasons. The original was Exorcism, and then they came along and said, well, you know, we need to sex this thing up a little bit. So they actually shot some hardcore footage, and we got a version called Sexorcism. And then they came along and said, well, we need more horror and less sex, so they released Demoniac, which is probably the shortest version of the film that you can get. But all those versions were unsatisfying to Franco. He really never filmed what he intended to film, and that's why we got The Sadist of Notre Dame some 5 years later. This film comes at a time when Franco had a lot of things going on with him personally and professionally. Up until '79, he had been exiled out of Spain, shooting films with Erwin C. Dietrich in Europe. Mainly, I guess, because of General Franco and the repressive nature of that regime. Franco died, and so in '79, Jess Franco decided, I'm going to move back to Spain. The time is ripe. He had also was going through a divorce, and he was also becoming more and more close to Lena Romay, and that relationship was becoming to the point where they were basically a married couple. So there was a lot going on with him, but the bottom line is he had always wanted to reshoot Exorcism the way it was originally intended, and that's what The Sadist of Notre Dame is. It's the definitive cut, in my opinion, of the film, and it's a great exploration into the psyche of Jess Franco, because not only did he direct it, but he was also the lead actor. It was not unusual for Franco to take a lot of roles in his films, but never to the extent where he's the lead. In this film, he plays a guy named Vogel, who's a defrocked priest who goes around. He's basically a conflicted soul. He's deeply religious, but he's also sexually repressed, and he acts out that repression by killing women that are turning him on. It's really a slasher film. I mean, it's a slasher film, but it's a slasher film with a lot of story and character development, which I thought was really good. It's one of his best, I think. I give it an 8 out of 10. I've seen it numerous times, and each time I see it, I get more and more impressed with it. The settings and the location, it was shot in Paris, and you get to see aspects of Paris that you would normally not usually see. I would say the seedier, darker side of Paris. Music by Daniel White is excellent. It's got a very funky jazz, goes with it really well. 75 minutes of this film is the original '74 film Exorcism. There's 20-some minutes of new footage which fleshes out the story and spends more time talking about this character of Vogel and explaining his backstory, which I think only helps to enhance the film. It gives the film purpose. It's not just a sleazy exploitation film. It's a film with a purpose, and I think Franco had something to say. If he spent 5 years waiting to do this, he clearly felt very strongly about it, and it shows in his character, in his portrayal. Interestingly, originally he was not intended to be. I think he intended for Vincent Price, of all people, to play Vogel, but he couldn't get Vincent Price, whether it was money or what have you, and so he ended up just being the lead himself, and he puts his heart and soul into it. I thought he did a great job. It's a really interesting and beautiful film, beautifully shot. you just it's a moment in time in the late 70s that you're not in Europe, Paris specifically, that you're not going to get normally. He also shot some of it in Portugal. There's a castle in Portugal that he used as well. But I highly recommend this release. This is a Severin release. It's got a 30-minute expose on the film by expert Stephen Thrower, and it's also got 3 other featurettes as well that by other leading experts of Franco, and it's also got a commentary track of selected scenes. So it's a great release. I highly recommend it. Love the black cover. I wish it included some kind of a booklet insert or something like that, but it's certainly, in my opinion, from a picture quality standpoint, it's a 4K scan. It looks great. The sound quality is great. So if you're looking for the definitive version of the 4 films called Exorcism, Demoniac, Sexorcism, this is the film right here, The Sadist of Notre Dame. Highly recommended. And let me know what you think in the comments below. Appreciate you watching.